Welcome back to Ask Allison. Here is today's question. There's an office space I really like. Before I start negotiating terms, I'd love to hear about any specifics in the lease you think I should look out for. You know, these things that we look back on and say, I should have looked for this or asked for that. So first, thanks to TherapyNotes for sponsoring Ask Allison. I love this question. So in addition to things for ask for, it's also important to be clear on what you're agreeing to. So I'm including some of that too. One thing you might want to consider is right of first refusal. If you plan to expand your practice or you're taking an office that's good for now, but if there's a nicer one in the building that you would really like, then you can ask for right of first refusal. And that basically means if a spot opens up, before they can put it on the market or advertise that it's available, they have to come to you and ask first, hey, do you want this spot? Now, you may or may not need to negotiate if you then can just transfer your lease over to that other spot, or if you're moving offices, or like what that will mean for the rent you're currently paying. I would negotiate that in if it's about an upgrade of an office. But if you're wanting to expand, then that could be a really great thing to do. Subleasing is something I have turned down offices for if they didn't allow subleasing, because I have a big problem with the idea of nobody else being in this office when I'm not in here 7 days a week, all day long. I feel like it just feels like wasted money to me. So negotiating in a sublease, I would find out what the rent increases are. This is one of those things that they don't always put in a lease. It's something that you can inquire about and say, at what point is it upon lease renewal that my rent might be going up? If so, at what percentage on average do you increase rent? It's a good thing to know before you get yourself into one. Some people will increase your lease when you're already trapped in a lease. Increase your rent when you're already trapped in a lease, which stinks because it's not what you agreed to, unless you agree to it. So, slip and fall insurance. Do you need to have general liability insurance as a part of being there? Make sure that you tack that on in your head to the cost of what that's going to be. Mine's about like $40 a month. It's not terrible, but it is something I need to consider. Is this a full service or a triple net rental? Now, most of us are finding full service offices or partial full service. They might not clean our office, but they might clean the common areas, provide toilet paper, that kind of stuff. Most of the time, we're not getting ourselves into triple net leases, which is when, in addition to your rent, you're also responsible for the property taxes on the building. For like if the furnace blows, you've got to pay to replace it, that kind of thing. But just double check the lease terms. Are utilities included? Does this include, like, is your rent going to go up if it's a particularly cold winter, that kind of thing? What's the door lock situation? Is it on a timer? Is it that the last person out is responsible for locking? How is the last out determined? Like, how do you make sure that that gets handled? Any safety or security issues that matter to you or your clients? Who controls the air conditioning and the heat? Is that flexible at all? Restroom cleaning and stocking, soundproof situation. Is it okay to have sound machines in the hall? Are you not allowed to have those? If it's an empty office and possible, like, can you do a little test run with somebody to see how soundproof the office actually is, or if everybody in the waiting room is going to be able to hear every single sound? How do they notify you about maintenance? Like in my office, if they need to change an air filter or something, they always okay it with me first. But I've heard of people who their sessions get busted in on by whoever's been hired to do maintenance. Obviously, that's not okay. If you hire a real estate attorney, they can write in a rent abatement. And that way, if your landlord doesn't fix something necessary, you don't have to pay full rent during that time. How quickly to expect them to respond to any kind of scenario that's going on. Most relevant right now might be a force majeure clause, which allows the tenant to stop paying rent and or to close without having to pay more rent if they're facing something like a pandemic. So if you're not going to see your clients, like let's say we go into a full shutdown again and you're not supposed to go to your office or something like that per your state or city or whatever, that would mean you didn't have to pay rent because you can't do your job there. And if you plan to be there for a while, consider having a real estate attorney look at your rental agreement. We have scripts for how to negotiate a lease in the What to Say When course over in the Abundance Party. You can access that and all the other information you need to build a practice at abundanceparty.com. Yeah, that's what I got. That's kind of a list, I know. I hope that you find a great place, and I hope that it meets all your needs. And yeah, I'll talk with y'all later. If you have questions for Ask Allison, please DM me over on Instagram. I'm abundance_practice_building.